So I caved. I did it. I read One Piece. Here we go. The gates are open. I don't think they're gonna get closed again. I just finished the baratie like yesterday, and I immediately wanted to go and film this so I could continue reading the rest of it. I'm reading it in Korean because with how long this is, I might as well get some language practice out of it. My Korean is like, I consider myself like high intermediate, but I actually kind of like it because it's forcing me to really go through and be really thorough and not move to the next page until I like fully understand everything that is being said, because I'm a very fast reader, so usually I would speed, but I'm reading it in Korean, so I have to really take my time, which is good. I'm not completely blind. I know like general things without context. Like I know who all the Straw Hats are and what their like general personalities are, even if I don't know how exactly they like come to be a part of the crew. I know who they are. So I know some things, and also I had watched the anime in the Korean dub of like up to Syrup Village. My favorite thing is character stuff and character analysis, so I feel like I'm not really gonna just talk about events necessarily. We can just go through like each character. I have a bunch of Discord notes, but 90% of them are just about that one scene with Zoro. So, with Zoro and Mihawk. So I gotta like spitball the rest of this. The only things I have, I'm looking at my notes, the only things I have are just me like yelling about Zoro and Mihawk. When he introduces characters, instead of having it be this person we don't know much about and then are informed of kind of what makes up the core of who they are as we progress through them, he starts with that first. Like the first thing we ever see Luffy do is like stab himself in the face. Right? And it's cool that a lot of these characters have such standout individual moments, because that is the thing that stands out to Luffy. I'm gonna read this straight from my Discord message that I wrote to myself. So a lot of our character intros are the things that immediately stand out to Luffy as why he wants these people on his crew. So, you know, who better to have as a swordsman or a first mate than someone so unfailingly loyal to their sense of promise and dedication. You know, this guy is keeping himself alive out of sheer force of will and will, you know, eat food off the ground that already tastes bad just because a girl wanted him to have it. Who better to have as a chef than someone who will not let anyone go hungry even if they pose a threat to them personally. So they stand out to Luffy and they stand out to the reader as like, oh, okay, this is who this person is. This is who this guy is. So regardless of what happens after that, you have those first core moments of knowing, regardless of anything else that they do to try to put anything over it or whatever, that is the core of who they are. So Luffy knows that, and we know that. And it's cool because of the person it doesn't happen to, and I'm going to talk about that later in a sec, but let me get to that anyway. One thing that I do like about about the whole romance dawn thing that makes something about Luffy's character very evident is the fact that he always says that his main thing is just for himself to be the pirate king, and he's getting his crew to, you know, help him be the pirate king, but really what he's about is just helping people find their dream. When he meets Zoro, it seems like, you're gonna join my crew, and I'm not taking no for an answer, but no, that's just because he knows that that's what Zoro wants, even if Zoro doesn't know that yet. But Luffy knows that that's what Zoro wants. But then the thing with Kobe shows that, no, like, if someone genuinely doesn't want to come or genuinely has something else they want to do, he won't force them, and he'll help them to do whatever it is that they want to do. And then we see it again with Sanji. He's like, I'm not gonna make Sanji come with me if he doesn't say it himself. In that situation, he knows that that would be Sanji doing what he's been doing with Zeph the whole time, where he's doing something for the sake of another person or doing something because he feels obligated to do it. But I'm getting ahead of myself with there. But anyway, so that's something I really like about Luffy. Okay, can I talk about Zoro now? I think the fact that he has 3 swords, the one he puts in his mouth is specifically Kuina's, I think says a lot about him and kind of why he fights with the 3 swords. When they fought as kids, he would always use 2 swords and she would use 1, because, you know, if it was just that the sword is hers and it was special to him, like, he would use it in his hands, but he doesn't. He uses his 2 swords in his hands and he puts her sword in his mouth, because that was always what it was when they were kids, was he would fight with 2 swords and she would fight with 1. So it literally is him and her still together. The sword is more than just like, I'm carrying on her wish and I have her sword with me. No, it's I am carrying her. She is the sword to him. He's always very adamant that death is not losing. They're different things, and I wonder if that's because Kuina never loses, and when he thinks of her, he knows her as the person who never lost. So if she died, he doesn't want to have that being that she lost. If death means losing, then that means Kuina lost. and Kuina never loses. He's so dedicated to not ever letting himself lose because he's carrying her. He will not let her lose. I love that. I love the moment where he lets go of her, and I love the moment in the boat where he holds her up again. And then on top of all of that, you have Mihawk. I feel like when most people look at this, they get excited because Mihawk is cool, he's really powerful, it's a demonstration of the power levels or whatever. I don't care about any of that, okay? That's all about the good. That's not what I'm here for. I look at Mihawk and like my sad old man in a coat senses are tingling. You look at him and he's literally a man on a cross. He's suspended on a cross. The giant sword on his back is a giant cross that he's like chained to. It's deliberate because he's got like 3 different crosses. There's the cross around his neck, his sword on his back, and also his little tiny boat. I do love the little tiny boat. I think that's very funny. That he's just sitting on like basically like a plank of wood with a stick in the water, and that's his boat because that's all he needs. I think it's very funny. But the boat also looks like a cross. While Zoro and Mihawk are kind of starting to fight, I like that you can see the moment that Mihawk kind of gains respect for Zoro. I think he recognizes something of himself in Zoro. In the Korean version specifically, there's this really great line after Zoro is like, "This is why I need to win," and he has his whole flashbacks of the things that are motivating him. Mihawk looks at him and he's like, 무슨 짐을 진 거냐? 짐 is specifically like baggage or luggage. So it's literally like, what baggage are you carrying? It implies that he's carrying a weight. He's not asking like what motivates you, what gives you drive. He's asking what baggage are you carrying? So I think to Mihawk, whatever his backstory is, he has a similar devotion or dedication to something that Zoro does. But with Zoro, where it's kind of something that pushes him forward and kind of drives him, I think Mihawk feels chained to it or incredibly guilty to something because of it. Mihawk's sword is black. Zoro's sword is white. Just that difference in itself I think is very telling. And literally, I'm looking at it right now, the little kind of like character picture in the corner of Mihawk literally looks like him sitting on his little cross. Look at that. There he is. You see him? There he is on his cross. That's what he looks like. He's a man on a cross. And then the last kind of words he gets, I really love them. He says, 세계를 알아라. 너 자신을 알아라. 강해져라. 놀라노와. Which is like, learn the world, learn yourself, become strong, Roronoa. Which, isn't that like the coolest thing ever to say before you leave? I love that, that's awesome. Mihawk reminds me a little bit of Sojiro from Persona 5, where he's kind of chained to something he feels immense guilt over and doesn't want to see it repeated in the younger character. At least that's the impression I get. I think that that's what's going on there. He doesn't want to see Zoro become him. Whatever that entails. I don't know. But I want to find out. I'm very intrigued. So I was like, I feel like I wouldn't be able to ever return here again since I've let go of my promise like that. And Mihawk's like, yeah, that would be like losing. And Zoro's like, well, no, I definitely can't. And I love that moment. That was a great moment. But I think also that showed Mihawk how Zoro works. And I think he works in a similar way. Just like slightly to the left. Because I think his view of losing is the same, but I think his view of death is slightly different. Oh, this is completely unrelated. Put this back in the Zoro section. I feel like Zoro doesn't admit to things easily, but he makes his opinions and thoughts and stuff like that very, very, very apparent through his actions. He's grumbling about, you know, being Luffy's friend or crewmate or whatever, but like the second Luffy gets taken away, he's rowing off to go catch him. And then also, he thinks of Luffy saying like the Pirate King has to have the world's greatest swordsman beside him as motivation for why he can't lose to Mihawk. I did really like that. He feels like he has to be the best he can for Luffy. And Luffy knows that because even though he was really stressed, he was freaking out, like he didn't let Zoro see that after Zoro woke up because he knew that that would really, really wreck Zoro to feel like he had caused him a pain like that. And I wonder if that's related to Kuina at all. And along with that, I think also Zoro doesn't want anyone to be disappointed in him because since he's carrying Kuina, that also means that they're disappointed in her. I think I've rambled enough about those two. I have a lot of thoughts. Let's move on to someone else. Okay, Usopp. I will admit, I am a Zero Village liker. I don't know if it was helped this time by the fact that like I've already seen the anime. I knew how long it was and I knew kind of what was happening going into it, so I could kind of focus on other things that are going on rather than just the plot. Because I do remember watching the anime, I was like, this is very long. I like it. I think it does a really great job at illustrating Usopp's personality through Kaya and his interactions with the kids, and I like it. So what I was saying before about how all of these characters where Luffy looks at them and he immediately knows, like, I want you to be my swordsman, I want you to be my cook. Usopp doesn't have that. He's the only person so far where that hasn't happened, because when they got there, like, Luffy was there for the boat. He was there to meet Kaya and get the boat that he wanted. I don't think he thought much of Usopp when he first looked at him. That could be something that he thinks negatively of himself for, but, like, that's the thing. Like, Usopp, like, you got yourself there purely by the strength of your own force of character. He became a Straw Hat through sheer force of will, and the only person who didn't realize that was Usopp himself, because he gets there to the beach and he's like surprised that they want to take him with them, because he still didn't realize that that was what he was doing. I think that that's really neat. It's a really neat way of conveying that and kind of weaving the dichotomy of how he views himself and how he is into like everything about him. I don't know, I think it's cool.
Hi, this is editing me here to say that I feel like I explained this so poorly. So, the word I'm looking for this entire time is parallel. It runs parallel to the character arc or whatever that they have going on. Really, what I'm just trying to say is that this is just really well done character work. It's just consistent throughout every single aspect of the way that they are portrayed. Their method of being taken into the crew runs parallel to how they feel about themselves in both their relation to the crew and also just in general. Because Usopp is a person with very low self-esteem who, if he just had more faith in himself and stopped being so scared, could do a lot. So the manner by which he is recruited is, at first, people don't think much of him, but then he proves himself through his strength and does all of that, and yet still doesn't realize that that's what he's doing because he thinks so poorly of himself. I feel like I explained this a little better when I talk about Nami, but for now, the word I'm looking for is it runs parallel. So that just means that it's just very consistent character work, in that everything all lines up really well.
His goal kind of seems to just be to become someone that he can feel proud of, to become the best version of himself that he can be, you know, be someone worthy of the title of Captain Usopp. He doesn't have like an external thing to kind of get in his way, right? Usopp is really just fighting against himself. He is the only person that can get in his way. Like, Usopp isn't gonna have like a final boss to get past like Zoro has, because it's just him and that's it, right? Okay, so Sanji. I don't know where to put Sanji on like my character tier, but the baratie is my favorite arc. So, and I love the whole thing that's going on with him and the chefs and Zeph. I love it. Kind of the way that he's introduced, I think, is one of my favorites. I don't know if I like it more than Zoro, because I think Zoro's is just so good, but Sanji's is great. There was one part about Sanji that was like bugging me for a while because I couldn't really figure it out, and it's the part where Zoro's fighting Mihawk and Sanji's like watching, and he tells him like, if your dream is gonna kill you, then throw it away and find a different one. And I didn't get why he said that for a bit, because to me it seems like Sanji is also really clings to the values that he has, but I figured it out. I think I got it. When he and Zeph were on the rock, he was like, well, my dream was the all blue, but I don't really want to do it without my crew. Like, I don't have my crew anymore, so I don't really see the point in going. And what I really want to do now is make a restaurant on the ocean for like, anyone who's hungry can come and have food, right? And Sanji's like, okay, that sounds great. We can do that. I will do that and I will help you. So his dream had also been the all blue, but then it changed. Oh, and you know what? There's that line that says, where Zeph is like, we have the same dream. They both had the dream of the all blue, right? But then Zeph changed it because he didn't feel like he wanted to get it anymore. And Sanji tried to do the same thing, but he couldn't because he still really just wants to find the all blue. But he didn't want to leave Zeph. It's both because he feels obligated to Zeph, like he has to stay there, the debt that he feels to Zeph, and also because otherwise, if he and Zeph don't have the same dream anymore, then he's alone in it. he's alone in it and he doesn't want to be alone. I mean, he's tried to convince himself that he was able to change his dreams successfully, right? Zeph can tell, and Luffy can, and basically anyone that looks at Sanji can tell. Staying at the baratie isn't what he actually wants to do, it's what he feels he has to do. But when he looks at Zoro, he's like, well, changing your dream should be easy. Also, I think the other reason for it, because he says, if your dream is going to kill you, then just change it and find a different one. Because that's what saved Zeph on that rock. Before, Zeph was like, well, I wanted to find the all blue, but like, I can't. Like, I don't have my crew anymore, I don't want to do it. And he was laying down on the rock, like, giving up, basically. And Sanji was like, no, you know, you've got to find something. There's got to be something that can, you know, that can keep you going. You can't just, like, let yourself die here like this. It's already been so long, you've gotten yourself this far. And then Zeph was like, well, I mean, I guess I do also kind of want to open a restaurant on the ocean for people to eat at. And Sanji's like, great, that sounds awesome. We can do that. That sounds great. Zeph changing his dream was what saved him. When Sanji is like, if your dream is going to kill you, find a different one. That's what Zeph did. And what he feels that he did and like what he had to do. It's so easy to just change your dream, but Sanji, it's not. Or my favorite page of the whole 7.5 volumes that I read is the page where Sanji's talking to Luffy about the all blue and the look on his face, like he's just so excited. I think that's the only time we see him like smile and look excited, like the entire time that we've seen him. And Zeph is watching him. I don't even know if he can like hear what he's talking about, but just like the look on his face tells him all he needs. Like he knows what he's talking about because how excited he looks, and Zeph is looking down and he's like, you idiot. You dumbass. Like, what are you doing here? That's why Zeph is so insistent for him to get out, because he's like, I can tell that this isn't what you want to do. It's what you feel you have to do, but like, it's okay. It's fine. Get out. Do what you actually want to do with your life. I will confess, this is the one thing I know the most about. I do know about Sanji's other backstory, so I think it adds an extra layer of context to all of this, especially with how Sanji really like would not accept it if Zeph just tells him that he likes his food, appreciates his skills, and appreciates his cooking, because I don't think he would, like, believe it, and he doesn't really know what to do with that. And also in the thing where he doesn't want to be alone in his dream, or just alone in general. I knew that, like, Zeph existed, but I didn't know that he and Sanji met. I thought that, like, they were already on a ship together, and then the whole ship died, and then they just got another ship. Which I guess doesn't really make sense now that I'm thinking about it. But I didn't know that Zeph was the pirate that came to like ransack Sanji's original ship that he was on. That's really interesting. I really like that. Oh my god, wait, holy shit, wait, oh my god, I just realized something. If the only reason that Zeph saved Sanji in the first place was because he saw that they had the same dream, and that Sanji also believed in the all blue, and then Zeph's dream changed and wasn't the all blue anymore, if Sanji felt that like if his dream didn't also change to what Zeph's was, then like Zeph wouldn't have a reason to keep him around anymore, and he would just... Oh my god. Sanji wants to have the same dream as Zeph, and he wants to... Yeah, he wants them to be connected like that, but he doesn't have to be, because Zeph loves him anyway. And oh my god! I'm having a moment. I've talked myself into a moment. Alright. Let's move on. So Korean has different levels of formality, kind of similar to Japanese. Korean has like three or four different levels of formality that you conjugate to when you're speaking to people. There's formal, polite, and then informal / kind of rude, depending on how you use it and who you're talking to. So most people in One Piece speak informally to each other, but the moment where Sanji is saying goodbye, he plants his head on the deck and like he bows to Zeph. That is the only time in this entire thing where he speaks formally. He uses formal language to Zeph. And I think that it makes it so much more impactful to see, like, physically see the switch in language for how, like, genuine he's trying to be. It's a lot of it is related to respect in Korean, because it's mostly like you're supposed to speak that way to people older than you and your seniors and stuff. So it's like him giving Zeph the most respect that he can. in that moment. Oh, and more about baratie. I just never shut off about baratie. Another thing I like is the focus on the strength of conviction, and how Zeph says that, like, no matter how many fancy weapons or spike capes or sword, spear, shield, guns you have, there is nothing stronger. There is no weapon stronger than conviction. And conviction can get you through anything. And I love how that's illustrated through Gin. His punch is the one to knock down Krieg. After Gin punches Krieg. There's this really great line that I really like, where he's like, 시간이 없기에 세상 각오한다는 것도 웃기는 얘기긴 하지만 좋은 약이 될 수도 있지. Which is kind of like, it's kind of funny to be talking about resolutions when you're already out of time, but that in itself can be its own form of medicine. Isn't that such a great line? Oh my god! Oh my god! Wait! Oh my god! Wait! Holy shit! Okay, so Sanji has been operating on the example of, if you are dying, the only way you can get yourself back from dying is to change your dream, right? But Gin, because he got himself back up by sticking to the dream that he had and the conviction that he already had, and saying that in itself can be its own medicine. This is enough to keep me going. Shows to Sanji that he can do the same thing. It doesn't always have to be, if you're gonna die, change your dream. It can also be, if you're gonna die, find what, remind yourself of why you had that dream in the first place, and that can be enough to keep you going. Holy shit! Ah! Baratie is the best arc. Yeah, and you see Sanji's face after he says that. That was a great epiphany I just had. That was awesome. The Baratie arc is just the gift that keeps on giving. I just keep discovering more things about it. Okay, so Nami. I'm sorry, because I feel like I've rambled so much about the other guys and I don't really have a lot to say about Nami. I feel like I will have a lot more to say after I see the full breadth of her thing that's going on. I don't dislike her. Like, she's fine. I mean, I like all the Straw Hats. I would say she's at the bottom. She's at the bottom of my like list, I guess. I don't know. The first thing she does to Luffy is betray him, and then betrays him again, and he still is fully willing to have her on his crew. But I think that because during that time she was still felt like she was deceiving them, that didn't feel genuine to her. But it was. Her character comes through, and Luffy sees it. So that's all I really have to say about Nami. Sorry. Oh, one other thing. So Nami is also kind of someone who didn't have a super, I mean, she had one kind of, a little bit, kind of conviction moment that, like, Zoro or Sanji had. So I think that could contribute in a similar way to Usopp, where it contributes to how he feels about himself in relation to the crew. It could be a similar thing for Nami, where she feels like she isn't really a part of it. And I don't think they think about these things, like, literally. It, like, kind of informs, how do I explain it? I don't think the characters think about it like, oh, I had a conviction moment in front of Luffy, but, like, it informs the way, it can speak to kind of the way that they feel about themselves in relation to the crew. So Nami speaks to how she's kind of isn't sure where she stands in terms of the crew, because she didn't have like a super strong moment like that. She had one kind of. So her position on the crew currently to her is, I'm here, kind of. Oh, we do get in a moment where, in the same moment where Luffy kind of reconsiders her, she kind of also has a moment where she reconsiders him a little bit, where she sees that, where he says that, like, his hat is just a hat, it's not hiding anything, but it is his greatest treasure because someone gave it to him. And I think because she said that she lost someone to pirates, so I think she also feels a similar way about doing something for the sake of someone. So that seemed to kind of warm her up to him in that moment when she saw him say that. So that's another thing I can say about Nami. I feel like that's very basic, but I don't know. Okay, so now general other people. I do like how a lot of our antagonists and villains kind of illustrate the qualities that exist within our main cast, but kind of flipped around or twisted in some kind of way. I think that's interesting. With Krieg, he illustrates kind of the way he views his crewmates as opposed to Luffy. So Krieg is like, these people are strong because I've decided they're strong. I say that they're strong. Both him and Luffy, like, pick people and give them these positions, but Krieg gets more of exercising his ego, of being purely confident in himself. Like, you're the best because I think so and I say so, and I'm the best. So, and then with Luffy, it's more of he has such confidence in the qualities and strengths of the people he finds. So that's why he gives it. He offers out these positions to these people. Or for Krieg, it's more like, it's a way of boosting his own ego. I also do love that it's like, here's Krieg, like, the biggest danger in the whole seas. And it's like, no, he's like, no one that's ever fought against me has won with my poisonous gas shield gun spear bomb weapon thing. And I always win. No one's ever won against my poisonous gas. Strange. No one's ever lived after I've sprayed them with poisonous gas. And then also, what is his name? In the Korean, his name is Par, the big shield fire man. He and Sanji also kind of illustrate more of the Baratie's thing with the strength of conviction. Because you've got Par, who's like, I've never been touched while I'm wearing a giant ass shield on all parts of my body, but I've never been scratched. And Sanji, who says, okay, but I'm not going to fight with my hands. And he's not wearing gloves, he's not wearing, like, gauntlets on his hands to protect them. He keeps his hands there, but because he's decided that he's not going to use his hands, he's not using his hands. They stay untouched. That's another thing that's kind of cool. And again, shows the strength of Sanji's own convictions when he puts his mind to it and doesn't, you know, try to convince himself of otherwise. And then Bucky the Clown. I don't have a lot to say about Bucky the Clown. He's there. And he's there. I'm trying to conjure thoughts and none are coming. Bucky the Clown leaves me no thoughts head empty. I don't know. I don't have anything to say about him. I'm sorry. So those are my thoughts. I am having a good time, clearly, and I'm very excited to see where else we go next. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope that this was coherent at all, because I'm really just spitballing, and half of this was stuff that I thought of as I was talking, so, you know, we'll see how it goes. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will definitely try to make more of these, so you can subscribe to see what my thoughts are on the rest of East Blue, and I will see you whenever that is. Goodbye. I haven't done an outro in like so long, I don't actually know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm gonna just go sit down and edit this, and then I'm gonna be like, and I've forgotten like 30 million things I wanted to say. So, I don't know, we'll see what comes up when I edit this. Maybe this video will gain another like 20 minutes, and it's just more about this. It's just all more about the Baratie. Anyway.